and welcome to a
We
live
back,
edition of the
Bob.
Garden Report. Back. It's been a
Yes,
couple
sir.
weeks here. We've been chilling. I think gratefully because this season's at training camp 1 week from tomorrow. Josue Pavone by my side. John on
Crazy, man.
Patriots tonight. You
1
can
week
go
from
check out
tomorrow.
the Patriots post game that just went off the air. That's available on demand at Patriots Press Pass. The Patriots won, which is good. We've been enduring a ton of losing in Boston over the summer between the Pats' awful training camp and the Red Sox. I was at Fenway yesterday
Hey,
covering
Bobby,
them.
that was a good game. All right, that's a good game against the Steelers. All right, don't come on, let them have
All
that
right,
one. All right.
they can have that one. Celtics are hopefully going to be back, boosting everyone's spirits a week from now. But instead of sunshine, optimism, and hype, getting the hype train going into this season, Wyc Grousbeck on the Boston Globe get an interview with Adam Himmelsbach and really ramp back expectations going into the season. I don't know if anyone got to read that. It dropped pretty late on Friday. I did a little video of it over on Celtics All Access. I gave some of my thoughts on it. And frankly, surprising statements from Wyc in my mind. And listen, I get it. He's trying to beat these guys and make sure that they don't rest on the NBA Finals trip last year or, make it seem like they're just going to appear back there because they were a year ago. But I found like the way he kind of dug into the expectations that they had pretty interesting. Few of the quotes here. The other side of the coin, he said it was thrilling being with the Celtics throughout the run, but the other side of the coin is that I think we've been overrated. I think that performance was a bit overrated in the public mind, and because I'm the one saying it. We were a finalist and 2 wins away from winning it, but when you look back, Brooklyn was a tough series. Then we had to go 7 games with the Bucks and Heat. Then we lost to Golden State. So we're not the hands-down team to repeat as Eastern Conference champions. I think we're a quality team. Goes on to say they lose Gallinari. They're in the mix like 5 contenders in the East, but they are not the clear-cut favorite. Said he doesn't want to overrate the Celtics going into this season. I gave my thoughts already, as I said in that Josue. Like, why would he say something like that going into camp?
I think he's keeping it 100. I think he's keeping it honest, Bobby. I don't know. I don't look at it as a diss. I think he's letting these guys know, hey, mentally be prepared because one, you're going to be the hunted team now, right? You're the team that won the East. All the teams are going to be headed for you. You're going to get the best effort every single night. And let's face it, Bobby, the Eastern Conference is a lot more competitive. I mean, it's been competitive since last season, and it's only going to stay that way because teams have only either brought back their same players or they've read up. They've improved. So I think he's preparing his team for that. Now, he also, again, keeping it 100, it's true, Bobby. I mean, look, they went Game 7. Okay, the only caveat is the Nets matchup. I don't think it was necessarily as close as the Celtics fight in Game 7 against the Milwaukee Bucks and Game 7 against the Miami Heat. Let's face it, the Milwaukee Bucks, they weren't healthy. They were missing their all-star, and that's a big impact on both ends of the floor in Chris Middleton, right? So I think if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you're thinking, look, we should be one of the favorites, or at least we're very competitive. We're very confident that we can come back and beat the Celtics, and they're not the only team thinking that. So I think Wyc is just letting everybody know, or at least saying like, hey, look, I've seen this before. You guys have never been in this position where you're the hunted, the Eastern Conference champs, the team that everyone's going to try to, show out and say, look, they're not as good as everyone says they are. So I think that's what Wyc is fairly doing, and I think he's also again being transparent with his thoughts, saying, look, luck is part of it, right? Every team that goes to the final, they have to have a little bit of luck, but he's reminding everyone that look, the Celtics fell in line the same line as a lot of these teams out there, right? Game 7s, competitive, consecutive Game 7s in the postseason, and things could have went either way in both of those instances.
Yeah, you put it well. I'm not trying to do that in some manipulative way. You said it's how I feel. I wouldn't pick anyone ahead of us.
I like
I
how you
don't
said
think we've
that.
got smooth sailing ahead. Yeah, it was well said. And I think it's true, too. When I look at the East, if you're going to ask me to stack it up right now, I don't think they're the favorites. You know how I feel about the Bucks, Josue. I have a lot of respect for that done that the Celtics turned around that series, and credit to them. The Middleton thing, you can say it all day long, but that's what happens in the playoffs. Guys you get the benefit of that or you get destroyed by that, and that's just how it goes. Every team that makes the
Right.
championship gets some kind of break. Look at the Warriors. I thought the Warriors had a really in the West, and they end up being the fresher team getting to the finals. That was a real factor there. When you look back, the routes that the Celtics and Warriors took to the finals. So the path was tough. I think it's going to be even tougher this year coming out of the East. You got the Cavs. The team I always forget's the Raptors. They were really good last year. And again, I said on this show, the Raptors would have been tougher round
There we
one than the
go.
Nets.
There
But
you go.
you
Where's
look
that
at
Canada flag? Where's that Canadian
series,
flag? I know you got it back there somewhere. Where's it at?
you look at that Nets series, and it was decided by 4.5 points per game. So all 4 of those games in the sweep were pretty close. So this is a point of reality from Wyc's standpoint. And then I think we forget, too, just how injured the Heat were. Tucker was hurt from like the jump in that series, didn't show it, ends up going down a couple games in with that hamstring. I don't think Jimmy was ever fully right in that series, and I believe there were a couple others in that one. Couple breaks there. You might not get those this time. And, of course, with Danilo Gallinari going down, the Celtics already caught a bad break to start this season, which I think happened, and we're all in vacation mode, and it's August, and there's not much going on. When it happened, it was like, oh no, like just seeing it. And then there was that little point of relief, like, oh, it'll just be a couple months there. But then it turned back. And the Celtics haven't ruled him out, but I'd be surprised if he plays this year. So they're looking at not having one of their key 2 additions at all for pretty much most of this, unless they make a really deep run.
Yeah, I mean, postseason, somewhere at that point, maybe he tries to make a comeback, but how much of an impact he's going to make, I mean, we don't know. It's an unfortunate story, but we're going to have to see how the Celtics have to make up for that, because I have to go into the season. I mean, a lot of us were going into the season thinking he's going to be in this rotation no matter what, one way or another. So that's essentially losing a rotation player where you can open up a spot for somebody else, but you're still losing that production. Like, who are some of the players that you have in mind? Because I don't know, Bobby. A lot of these people talking about, the younger guys stepping into that position, or who's going to take that spot. I mean, who are some of the people that you think could come up on those Gallinari minutes right now?
It's got to be Hauser, right? He's the only guy on the roster. Aaron Nesmith's gone. You could do some 3-guard lineups, which I bet they're going to do, especially as they try to put more onus on Rob to step up this year, because he probably played close to 30 year. When the Celtics lost the finals, Ime, and I know he was asked about it, but Rob was really the first guy Ime looked to when he was talking lineup and coming back better and taking on more of a load, being stronger, being healthier. I think, remember opening day against the Knicks, 44 minutes, and our heads were spinning because we never saw him do anything like that. They really pushed him last year to become a more not only reliable center, but sustainable. So when we talked about Gallinari, he was probably going to be playing mostly 4 and minutes at the 5. So he wasn't here last season. So on the same guys, right? Horford, Rob, and Grant, who was great last year. But the goal this season was to ease back on the minutes on guys a little bit, right? Jared Weiss reported that they were going to have a back-to-back system where he doesn't play, and a little bit more load management for Horford. He's now, 35? So Hauser's going to be the key for that, right? They love him. They gave him a multi-year deal. He was awesome.
See, I don't know if that's the move, Bobby. I don't know if that's the guy who you just want to throw in there, and if he's going to be ready for that position, because that's a big spot. That's a huge spot, and it's going to be interesting to see how they address that, because maybe there's some other guys in the front court. A lot of the players are going to be competing for a roster spot. Maybe someone like that who can give you some depth in the front court and relieve guys like Rob Williams or Grant Williams. Someone like Grant could grab some of that. Some of those minutes if he's able to take his game to another level. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen, but I don't know if someone like Sam Hauser would be a shoo-in to grab that spot, or even someone like Luke Cornett. Now, Luke Cornett couldn't make a jump; he could earn that spot, but I'm not quite sure if someone like Hauser, because again, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to ask for somebody to be a consistent threat offensively. That's essentially what he would have to be in order to get that spot, right? Someone that he can rely on for offensive production. Maybe not in double figures every single night, but someone that can be consistent off the bench.
And he's gonna have to earn Ime's trust, which is difficult. Ime went with a tight rotation last year, and he had his 6, 7, 8 guys that he trusted, and everybody else in the bottom half of this rotation, which included Hauser and Cornett. Right now, they had Daniel Tice last season, so he was in the role that these 2 guys are going to be battling for here. But that's a real loss.
What about Pritchard though? Like, how does he get in there, right? Is he in this rotation? I mean, he's gonna have to fight for it too, right, Bobby?
He's
I mean, what do you
definitely
think about
not.
that?
No, yeah, he doesn't have any minutes as it stands right now. I think we
That's
can
a
agree
tough
on that.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah, just like last year. And he's a guy who, in his exit interview, said he wants to have minutes every night. He wants to have that ability to, know that he's going to play 20 minutes in the game and have this amount of shots and have that stability. Because I think that's where he thought he was lost a little bit early last season and wasn't able to get his feet under him. And we all remember how much he struggled early in the year before he got going after that Schroeder trade. Now you like the guys who are in front of him a little more than Schroeder, but he doesn't have a role right now. And I wonder if Derek White even has a role at this point, because last season it was Smart playing 36, 35 minutes throughout that postseason. And, White would sprinkle in a little bit behind him. And that was basically it. It was those two guys, man, the backcourt. Pritchard would maybe play like 8 to 10 minutes. So is that what White's looking at this point? Because backup wing's important to me, right? Brown gets a hamstring or something midway through the year. He needs a couple weeks or even just a night off here or there. They don't have a backup wing right now. And that was one of the things that Summer League Ime was talking about, getting a shooter, getting a wing with size who can be consistent and reliable. And listen, I like some of the things Hauser did, especially in Maine. I wrote about for CLNS last week. He put up some amazing stats, not only from three, where he was great. He shot 43% from three his whole career through college, Maine, and in his spot Celtics minutes. But we haven't seen enough of it with the Celtics. I mean, I had like one game last year where he actually played extended minutes. It was that one against the Bucks where no one played in April. And that's pretty much all we have of either of these guys with the Celtics, save for like those Cornet minutes after they traded for him 2 years ago.
Yeah, I just think it's a tough spot for him, man, to expect him to step up there. But we'll see. I mean, we'll have to see how training camp goes, obviously. The preseason, what Ime thinks. It'll be interesting. But yeah, I just don't I'm not sure if you're just gonna put Hauser into that spot. It's tough.
It is, especially with his defense, because that was the concern, right? In the draft, he doesn't get drafted at all. You're talking about a guy who shoots 43% from three his whole life. That guy's going to get drafted unless he has a serious vulnerability on the other side of the ball, and he evidently does. Like, you watch some of the tape, and he's opening his hips, and guys are able to go past him, and he just can't keep guys in front of him, which is the system, right? Everybody switches, everybody guards every position. He can only really guard one position, and if it's only if it's the right matchup.
Yeah, that's why I bring up Pritchard, because he's gonna have to prove himself again, right, to Ime, because he had to do that last year. Remember, it wasn't exactly in the rotation, but Ime him down the stretch of that regular season when he sort of, he pulled back, and he also put him back in when he didn't trust him during the postseason. But that's natural, But is he going to be able to take that next step this upcoming year, right? It's going to be his third season. Offensively, can he be someone that's consistent enough that you can also rely on? Because Ime is also given credit for how he's done, how he's improved defensively, because that's what essentially gets him on the floor. But how is that going to mesh, with limited minutes, especially with Malcolm Brogdon being in the mix now? So,
and are they big enough at that point, right? Because they loved being big last year. Two bigs on the floor,
for sure.
Two huge wings, the huge point guard. That was their MO last year. That's what made them great. That's what gave them an advantage.
No, for sure. I feel like he's gonna have to be flirting with like 40% from behind the arc to get minutes. I honestly do. Otherwise, he could be traded. He could be a trade chip, down the road. But we'll see.
Well, that's the question they're gonna have to ask with White too, right? Because they gave up so much for him. Looking back on it, Richardson, who I didn't love, but that's a real starting level player in this league, and you give up a first round pick that became whatever, so that wasn't too important. But then you give up that 28 swap, which was tough. And Stevens even said right after they did it, that's the one you lose sleep over, giving up a pick like that. And I loved his defense. And Ime said it all throughout the run. He does the little things, and he's passing, and he's moving, and he manipulates the defense. But he did really struggle offensively, especially in the finals after that big game one. And now, like I said, it's not even a slam dunk. You're talking about Pritchard, who I think has 0 minutes. White might only have like 10, 15-ish, 20 behind Brogdon and Smart, because Brogdon and Smart are going to play a ton, right? They're going to close games.
I'd say 15 plus for sure. I think that's someone that Ime trusts coming off the bench, but if he gets out to a cold start, I mean, yeah, he could lose minutes, but
he's not going to have the ball.
he's not gonna have the balls much, but I think because of what he does defensively and because he could be someone that impacts the game in different ways, I can see him getting more minutes than Pritchard for sure. Pritchard's gonna Pritchard's gonna have to really show what he can do offensively, and if Ime can rely on him offensively. Whereas I don't think that's necessarily the case with Dwight, because with Derek, because he's got other ways to be effective, whether that's playing defense. I know. I swear, man. Ever since the D White thing, I'm forever calling him Dwight. Like, it's so annoying. You remember the guard? I mean, doing our reports, like I stopped myself so many times, and you always laugh.
Yeah. Well, we were live at like 12:30 for those finals games. We're gonna be back to 7:00 starts. The orange line's gonna be back, which I'm excited about.
Time.
Yeah, we're right on time. I'll be going in on the orange line, which I think is going to be opening tomorrow. So we're going to be back to a little bit more normalcy soon. As we sit here on September 18th, regular season is 1 month away. 76ers Celtics at the Garden is going to kick off the season in just 1 month. But I think this team, as we see it, is what we're going to get. We kicked around Melo for a couple weeks there after Gallo got hurt. I know you and Max talked about it a little bit. That doesn't seem like it's happening. There's still a lot of veteran centers sitting on the market, hater,
which is weird, man. He went to Syracuse, right?
I'd love him in the room. I'd love him to be on this team. I'd love to talk to him after games, but playing on this team, I don't know.
Why not?
He's never been a guy. Been a guy who takes 5 shots, because what did Grant do last year? 5-6 shots a game. All threes, hit them at a really, really high percent, defend. That's what they need a backup to do.
He'll attempt about 7 to 8.
Oh, he's going to take 10, 12. When he gets the ball, he's shooting it, even at this nice roll. Right.
If you're going to say the whole thing would just be like a distraction, too much of a distraction, okay, I'll buy that. But in terms of what he can do on the court still, someone that can give you offense coming off the bench, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where if it doesn't work out, you're not killing yourself over it. You're like, all right, well, we gave it a shot. But then again, that is sort of a mid-season, or I don't know.
He'll be out there, right?
If somebody gets hurt, or you need someone else to come in there. So maybe it still happens, but I get it. I'm not heartbroken over it, but it would have been cool. I think it would have been a good role for him right now.
It definitely would have been cool. I would have loved the story. He might be waiting for a role like that too on a team like this. Miami gets an injury, he'll go there.
Exactly.
The Clippers, the Clippers already have a ton of guys, but that might be what he's waiting for.
Eventually, I think that's what happens. That phone's gonna ring mid-season when someone goes down, and one of these teams that's striving for a championship is gonna need that production.
Yeah, and he might need the time off. I know he's chilling. I know he's relaxing. He's getting up there, late 30s. He's been playing for a minute. This is gonna be his 20th season in the NBA. I believe him and LeBron in that 03 class. So crazy, they've been going at it for a minute. I'd love him on Boston, just to have him on the team and see him around. And it'd probably be some value for a guy like Tatum and Brown, learning from him too, in practice and going at it. So there's some benefits for sure. Is he ready to not play in a game if that's what Ime's game plan is that night? I don't know, because that's
what do you mean by that though. What do you think he's gonna pout? You think he's gonna like?
Guys want to play. I don't think guys like going to teams to sit on the bench and not play, unless you're a young guy like Hauser and Cornette, and that's probably why they look at. That's probably why they look at these guys and say all right, these guys can do what we need them to. 10 minutes if we need it. Just give us those reliable couple runs, and we'll run the starters. We have a young team. We have an athletic team. We'll still rely on those guys extensively. And if we really need it, we can go to Hauser and Cornette for a few minutes. And if they need a sit, they've already done that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Bobby, because I think that's what this time of the season is all about. Let's see what you got. Let's see what our prospects look like. What kind of improvements they made during the offseason, during the summer, and which ones that we can plug into particular roles, or maybe they can make the roster, the final cut. Some guys are on the bubble. So, yeah, I mean, again, the whole distraction take, I can see that. I didn't really think about that when this whole thing started. And again, I wasn't about the whole Melo thing until Gallinari got hurt. Some people were about Melo weeks before Gallinari got hurt.
Some people have been on that for years.
Yeah, exactly. People have been like, yes, this is the offseason, dude. Everyone's been especially the Melo fans that are Celtics fans as well. So, but yeah, after Gallinari went down, it would have been cool. But yeah, this is a good way to check your inventory if you're the Celtics right now. Check what you got. The G Leaguers and see which ones have made the most significant strides, up until this point.
So this is the conversation going to camp every year that becomes one of the biggest topics that doesn't ultimately end up meaning that much is
Someone, hold on,
who's going to be that last guy.
Someone goes, Hauser over Melo is insane. I can't put it that way. You can't,
I'm not going to say he's the best player in the world or he's going to be this awesome backup, but he shows up to the court and he's shooting 43% from three. And that is a huge benefit to have. Can he do the other stuff? That's what we're going to see this preseason. This is a big preseason for him.
But also,
I'm looking at Cornette.
Right. But this is also like, okay, let's see what you got. And then if not, we're going to sub you out and bring in the veteran. So it's a win-win if you're the Celtics, right? So it's not one of those cases where, then again, like you said, maybe someone else signs Melo. But if you're the Celtics right now, you're willing to take that risk. If he goes elsewhere, then whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, we'll see.
I'm high on. I think he can play some backup center minutes. Hauser, we'll see. He's got to do the other things, and you got to defend on this team.
What do you think about the Brad Stevens like on Twitter? That's interesting.
I love it. Doc
Brad
was like
never liked anything on Twitter.
Like,
what compels him to do that?
Doc was like in one thing, Brad was like in something else, and I love what Brad was like in the Luke video, throwing down reverse slam off the crossover. Luke is a good player. Yeah, and his main numbers last year were awesome. He's 7'2". I mean, this guy is huge. Can fill the lane, block shots in the pick and roll. He's going to be good. He's going to be solid. Can he beat Tice? I think he can. Because Tice wasn't even that great last season. We'll see that.
That's true.
Because Tice has a long NBA career. He just came runner-up in the Eurobasket with Schroeder out there, so shout out to them for that.
Right.
And
I just think it's funny, man, because Brad, he's been on Twitter for years now. He never likes anything, and then he likes, Cornette. I mean, it's good. It's a good endorsement, obviously, of all people. But Doc Rivers' like on Twitter or not?
That's what I was saying. I slipped it in. I don't think we need to go any further than that.
I didn't hear you.
Some guys I
missed it.
There's some guys at the bottom of the roster here who are interesting to me. Now, are they going to play? No. But who out of this group can come in, be a good body in practice, really give you a few minutes if some guys need a night off, it's a rest night, and maybe sneak into that backup wing conversation. And that's where Jake Layman becomes a little interesting. We broke the story that he's coming in here on the training camp deal, and he's a native Massachusetts guy from Rentham.
You broke that. Bobby's report. Good stuff. I love it. I love the signing. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
From Rentham. Can't shoot. You look at his numbers from three, he's 30%. He has seasons that are worse than that. So this guy ultimately probably isn't going to factor in on this roster. He's just competing for a spot here. But he's 6'8", finishes around the rim. I think he was 7 inside last year with Minnesota, and he hasn't played a ton in his career with Portland and Minnesota. So maybe this is the spot where it works, but he's 27, 28 at this point. I don't know. I think this guy probably is what he is at this point. You got Bruno Caboclo. You got Noah Vonleh. Justin Jackson's in camp, which I think he was doing some other opportunities out there, and he chose to come back to the Celtics after a great summer league. I don't know how much
the final roster, though? He could make the final roster. I don't know.
I just don't know if he's going to play.
Make an impact on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
So I like Justin Jackson, actually. He was amazing in summer league. And he was with the team briefly last year on one of those COVID emergency contracts. And he was awesome with B-League affiliate last year. So that's the guy I actually want to see how this group make it. Bruno, you're going to see Bruno playing the preseason, Josue, and he's going to look amazing. But he's another floating around a bunch of teams to the start of his career and hasn't made it. So a lot of these guys that they're bringing in, Noah Vonleh played in China last year. Caboclo was in Brazil. These are guys who just have been in the NBA for a minute and haven't really stuck on anywhere. And there really aren't a lot of minutes for the Celtics to give there.
No, there isn't. But we'll see which ones stay around. You know, which one's going to be at the end of the bench. Yeah, I don't think it's one of those, you know, situations where one of these guys can crack the rotation. But it's going to be that time of the year. You know, we'll see what they got. Let's see what the Celtics have moving forward. And I just can't wait to see what kind of strides everyone else is going to make. Right. You know, at the preseason when the season gets going, and you know, what's Rob going to look like? You know, what's his defense going to look like? You know, do they return to being a top tier defense? I think they will. But how much of a defensive juggernaut they're going to be when you look at the way the regular season ended last year? You can't help but wonder if that carries over. So I can't wait.
What are your 3 biggest questions to start camp now that you say that? Because one of them for me is, how's Smart going to look? Coming back off the ankle.
That's
weeks
one
ago.
of them.
Say he's not quite 100%.
Yeah, that's definitely up there. I think another question is the guy I just mentioned, Rob. You know, how's he feeling? What does he look like? What's the eye test look like? I can't wait to see that. You know, because I think this team can be the top team in the East all year long if he's healthy. You know, if he's that guy all year long, then we're talking about the Celtics essentially, again, being a top 2 team in the East, or essentially being at the top when the season ends, which would be one heck of an accomplishment when you think about the competitiveness in the Eastern Conference. So that's another one. And I think my third question would be is, how will Tatum and Brown respond, you know, as a cohesive unit, you know, coming back from the NBA Finals and coming up short? I think both of them can take their games to the next level, but how will that relate to one another? So those are probably my 3 questions right there.
Smart, Rob, Tatum, and Brown. I'm interested in when they're going to have the final station, because I thought that was another interesting thing Smart said to me, is they haven't talked as a team about the finals yet, which is understandable, I guess, because they were all on vacation. They haven't really been until now, and everyone's back at training camp now ahead of the start next week. What kind of conversations need to be had? You love talking about tough conversation between Brown and Tatum. Do any need to be had within this team about the finals and how it went and what they need to learn from it?
Just rehashing what went wrong, you know, just going through it and
going back through the tape,
you know, maybe not even necessarily that, but just more like what you remember from it, and seeing if you can cut those mistakes out now. You know, I would, if I'm the Celtics, if you know everyone that's been there, most of these guys are coming back. You got to talk about that stuff. You know, talk about your feelings. Talk about you know what went wrong and what kind of habits that they have to withstand throughout to make sure that doesn't happen again. You know, so hopefully that does happen. Hopefully they're transparent about their feelings and how things went down last year, because that's what a lot of these teams. I think it's going to be, honestly, you know, Bobby, that's going to be something that a lot of teams are going to be doing, because look around the Eastern Conference. I mean, some teams added a couple pieces here and there, but a lot of these guys they're running it back. You know, they got the same roster, they got the same fire, competitiveness. You know, that none of that's really gone out the window. It's not like a lot of teams out there are aging. You know, so I think if you're the Celtics, you have to think that you sort of have things on your side, because you have the youth. You know, you're sort of a younger team compared to the other teams in the Eastern Conference, at least the top tier teams, and you got a brand new weapon, 6-man, you know, slash a closer in Malcolm Brogdon. You know, that's probably the biggest pickup, or one of the biggest pickups out of those top teams in the Eastern Conference. You know, and the Celtics are that team that made that move.
Yeah, that's a good one. I guess the final one is Grant. So in the Celtics are in this negotiation extension. He's eligible. They can sign him and lock him up for 3-4 more years after this. I think it'd be 4 years max. And one of the reports that was out there during the summer that I don't think we got into was that that Keldon Johnson extension that he signed, 4 years, $80 million, could be kind of seen as a bar for Grant, which is, I think, crazy to think about that that Grant could be making $20 million a year, but a guy who shoots 40% from 3, defended Giannis and Durant at a high level, was a pseudo starter. You know, what's Smart making? $20 million a year? I think Grant looks at it and is like, all right, I can defend Giannis and Durant.
Smart's a little less, but no, I see what you're saying.
Rounding up,
be in that ballpark.
Yeah, and I don't think Grant would get the Johnson. Johnson's a wing. He's one of the stars on San Antonio. He's one of the centerpiece guys. But I'm interested to see if they get something done here. Now, we've talked to Grant a couple times this summer, and he doesn't seem too worried about it. Like, he's not going to be a kind a guy who's going into camp with, I'm going to get my deal and blah, 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 blah. So I think he'll be able to play through it. But I think from a Celtics perspective, it probably makes sense because 2 years ago, he has this awful sophomore season. Everyone in our comments wants him gone, released. And then last year, he was one of the X factors on this team. So which Grant is the real Grant is what we're going to see this season. Worth going through the year, seeing what they get from him. And then he's a restricted free agent next summer, so you have those rights on him. And if someone wants to throw a huge bag at him, you get. But they're in an interesting spot with him because they need him at this point, especially with Gallo gone.
Yeah, that's true. There's a little more pressure on Grant, but I think that's in the Celtics' favor to just go into the season and see if he can duplicate those numbers or at least, improve on them. I mean, he was essentially the best 3-point shooter on the team. He shot 41%. Can he duplicate that? If he does, then that's a asset for the Celtics moving forward. That's a guy that you're going to rely on coming off the bench. And if he takes his numbers up to another level, then yeah, I think you have to consider bringing him back, for sure. So I don't know if the Celtics go ahead and re-sign him now. Let's see if he can do this again, especially now that he has the minutes and he has the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and it might not be a good move to give him the big money right now because that could become a bad con. He has any regression at all. We look what happened with Duncan Robinson, exactly. which is still kind of crazy to think about. And Robinson's a completely different player. I saw someone throw his name out in the chat, but he's cool now. He doesn't even play for the Heat, which, you do that extension, you get a guy in early, you give him a long-term deal and money that he's earned to that point. The contract that you give a guy is about what he projects to do going into the future. And I still see some growth possible from Grant. They can see it too. And I think he's going to have to kind of prove that he's worthy of that upwards of $20 million, because I think a lot of players are looking at now there's about to be a new TV deal, new CBA. You sign a deal now, that's the money you're locked into even after the cap goes way up. So guys are going to be probably fighting for that extra $1 $2 million now.
Much so much Grant slander right now in the comment section. Jeez.
Here's the thing though, you got to keep him. Like, Eric, you might have to pay.
You know where this is coming from though, right? This is what have you done for us lately? Let's face it, after game one. Yeah, I mean, look, you could rope him in fights and you can rope him in with pretty much anybody else you want from that second unit that just didn't show up after game one. Just
how many
disappeared essentially.
You know how many shots he hit over the last 3 games?
How many shots he hit?
Yeah.
2, 3?
3.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah, he's got something to prove here, and I don't think an extension's going to get done before the season. It doesn't make sense for either side. I don't think. Like the Celtics say, we're at this number, and he's going to come in high, and that's sort of how the negotiation goes. They're going to be in 2 different places, and where's they're going to settle. His president is probably going to have to dictate that.
Exactly. Like you brought up Tyler Hero, man. He went off that year in the bubble, that playoff. So he was coming off of that, So yeah, we'll see.
Hero still hasn't got an extension either. He's another guy who might end up becoming a free agent next summer, but restricted. That's a good thing. You take a guy to free agency, they're point, and you get that rights to keep them.
You take that chance, and then if it, if you have to match the contract, if you think it's worth it, then you do so.
We get some sponsors here. Good friends at the Garden Report.
You brought up a good point, though. I'm gonna tease it right now. We'll talk about it on the other side, but you brought up a good point about Grant and essentially his future in Boston. I'll expound on that in a few minutes.
Look at that. Joe Sway's in mid-season form here with the tease.
I got the rust out. Let's go.
AG1, our sponsor here at the Garden Report, Athletic Greens. Someone messaged me the other said they got it. They're looking for the phenomenal shirt, which still we're offering it. It's right here. The first piece of Garden Report.
No, get me one of those.
Coming soon.
Send it over.
Nick, throw it in the mail. We need them. We want to all wear them on opening night.
Ship out a dozen to Brockton right now.
Athletic Greens, they've been great. They've been an awesome supporter. I think we've loved this product as much as any sponsor we've had here. Because what is it? You pour your glass of water in the morning, you throw a scoop of AG1 in it, and that's all you have to do. That's all the work there is. You're getting 75 vitamins, minerals, adaptogens, probiotics for your gut health. These are all the little things you need for your health. And now fall's coming. It's out there. You're getting out early. It's like 48 degrees in the morning. It might get a little cold. This has vitamin D, which is immune, and you eat an orange or something. All these little different things you do for your health. It's all in this one powder. So that's the thing about this. It's easy. It's got that tropical flavor, and the gear that it comes with, if you get a subscription, is really cool. Nice bottle to shake it up in, a nice container, green theme, hold it in, and the reviews are through the roof, Josue. Like they don't have to believe us on this. You go to any site that's selling it, their reviews are 5 stars. Everybody's saying they love it. This is a great product. We've all been on it for 2 months, feeling a little more energetic, feeling a little healthier, with exercise and diet. They have a great offer. Of course, we're throwing in a phenomenal t-shirt. If you give it a try, see if it's for you, and you're going to get a t-shirt, they're going to give you a year's supply of vitamin D, like we said, immune boosting, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase, which, again, on the go, you run into work, just rip it open, pour it in, boom, there's your travel pack. So that's all you're going to get with athleticgreens.com/garden. Ton of value. You've been taking this, Josue, like we all have. It's easy.
Yeah, man. I've been on it for about a month now. Yeah, it's good. It gives you that. I keep telling people, it gives everyone that second win, that midday second win. But you don't need the coffee. And, it's natural. So I've been trying to. As I took a sip of my coffee, I haven't tried to cut back on coffee. It's my first one of the day, but that's a big help for me.
9:30. You're gonna be up all night, Josue.
No, I'm good. I'll get some work done, and then all of a sudden I'll pass out. Just like a couple hours after I have a cup of coffee, I can go right to sleep. So I'm good.
That's athleticgreens.com/garden. Shout out to them. They've been an awesome sponsor here. Loving their product. Again, a lot of cool gear that you can get with it too if you sign up for the subscription. Absolutely. So give it a month. Give it a try for a month. You'll get all that stuff. You'll see if it's for you. And you'll get a t-shirt, and you'll be supporting CLNS. Garden Report, our other sponsor here. You know them well. I wish Jimmy was here because I think he loves this product more than anyone else. Is Calm. Calm.com/garden. You're going to get 40% off.
Take over the read right about now. If
You're going to get 40% off for premium subscription with Calm support. What do you get here? Sleep sounds, the rain, the lightning, the beach, the cruise ship. Whatever
calm of the day.
It is that you love. You love the calm of the day. Tell people about Josue.
So it's about 10 to 12 minutes every single day. Just a great way to just do a quick meditation, or even just I call it, again, it's just the calm of the day. I always tell people like that. If you just say it's a meditation, I'm like, yeah, that's a part of it, but it's also just a way to just unwind for 10 to 12 minutes. And every single day is a different way of breathing techniques and just ways to just essentially just check out for a second, right? Check out for about 10 to 12 minutes and then resume, go back into your day, go back into your routine, feeling refreshed. That's essentially what it did for me. So guys, check that out for sure.
And that's what this is all about. Your morning.
I'll be firing that up way more often during the regular season. But yeah, that was always my go-to, the calm of the day.
Yeah, your morning, your afternoon, your night right before bed. Those are the most important times. Sleep, essential to a guy like LeBron James as well. He always says sleep is the #1 driver of his production. And calm is for all of those different things. And if you're going to try the app, gives you the tools to improve the way you feel, reduce stress and anxiety through those guided meditations that Josue mentioned, your focus, music tracks to rest and recharge, sleep stories for children and adults, new daily movement sessions are available now as well. There's a little bit of something for every brain sounds going to sleep. That's my big one. Calm.com/garden. You'll get access to everything they can offer there. 100 million people around the world use Calm, Josue. So Calm is ready to help you stress less, sleep more, and live a happier, healthy life. That's calm.com/garden, calm.com/garden for 40% off Calm's entire library, unlimited access. So shout out to the sponsors. A few other things here before we wrap. The first one that's more concrete here is Dennis Schroeder, old friend Dennis Schroeder, going back to the Lakers. I love the Lakers, Josue. Not for reasons that I'm a big fan of them or that I love to watch them.
No, they're just entertaining you. That's what
they
it is.
They are so
you
entertaining.
Got the side of the drama. They got a little bit of everything for you. Some entertainment, some star power.
It is nonstop drama. And I've grown to love their fans too, because no fan base gets up and stays up all night for Patrick Beverly trade, Dennis Schroeder signing, and anything this team does, even something
You talking about
someone
Lakers
says.
Spaces on
Yes,
Twitter?
Lakers Spaces, they're gonna argue all night over Austin Reeves saying something. Like, that's how they are. I love the passion. Maybe we'll start a Lakers podcast. I think we actually have a Lakers podcast here on CLNS Media. And again, they love to talk about this team. And man, did they give them something to talk about. Re-signing Dennis Schroeder, who was on this team in 2020-21. They were an amazing team that season through the regular season, coming back off the championship. Schroeder was awesome for much of that regular season as well. Then you had a few weird moments that he was awful in that first round against the Suns. He made some comment in an interview in German that I'm unvaccinated. I don't like to take painkillers, and the only other guy on the team that's unvaccinated is LeBron. And everyone's like, LeBron's unvaccinated, and it became this whole storm.
LeBron's
so that was
like,
a couple.
Really?
That was a couple years ago. You also have the thing where he reportedly turned down an $84 million contract. So that's what a lot of people are talking about with this one. Signed with the Celtics last year on a, I believe, was it a mid-level? Yeah, it was a mid-level exception. So
Mid-level.
$5-6 million. Yeah. Now he's back on the Lakers on a minimum. So he's made about, $10 million bucks or so, where he could have made $84 million. Heading back to LA, where they already have Westbrook,
Allegedly.
Beverly. I guess this is just where Schroeder's at. He made the first team all Eurobasket. He was amazing with Germany. John and Jimmy love this guy, I think, a little bit more than you and I did during his time here. It seemed like trading him was a real turning point last season. And now he's going to join LeBron, Lakers, in that whole combustible situation, which I can't see going any better than last year. Like, these moves they're making are just kind of head spinning.
Yeah, but then it makes you wonder what's the big move here? They're like, what is leading up to? Did they make that deal that people are talking about? Do they finally trade Westbrook and to Utah? I mean, out of all the teams, that's one team that I think would take Westbrook just to take that salary cap and take that salary in and sort of keep the tanking movement going. Danny Ainge has done that before in the past, where he's taken guys in just to sort of keep it going and the minimum contracts and just see where you lay, see where those picks fall in a few years or so. But for the most part right now, I'm with you. They're definitely not a favorite. I mean, do they make the playoffs? Maybe. I mean, with all the pieces that they made so far, but until they trade Westbrook, until they figure that whole thing out, they're not going to be one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the West right now. Just not on paper. I mean, they're not going to get that. Not going to get that recognition. Now, if that deal does go down, though, Bobby, what do you think about that? Even if it's just someone like Mike,
I think they look a lot better. Yeah,
don't they? I'm with you. If that goes down,
and this is what makes me.
If they get Bogdanovich, another shooter, if they get Mike Conley, a facilitator who also happens to shoot, 38, 39% from behind the arc. I mean, maybe a little lower now, but he's still got a little juice left in his career. I mean, that would improve this team dramatically, I think.
That's what I don't get, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. That Westbrook situation went horrible last year. There weren't even signs that it might work.
That was a big misstep, man.
It was an absolute disaster. One of the worst trades ever when we're going to look back on it. They traded a couple of champions in Kuzma, KCP. They got rid of Caruso to keep THT, and now they're trading THT for – it's a disaster. And listen, I know it's a Celtics show, and what are they talking about the Lakers for? But there's the rivalry here. You want both these teams to be good at the same time. 2020, we almost got a Celtics-Lakers finals, and now they win that championship. Celtics kind of had an off year in 2021 as well. And now the Celtics are still up here in contention level. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers are right back at 11 as they stand. Now, if they do a deal like Harden for Westbrook for Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that team looks much better immediately.
I mean, we all know about the reports about Buddy Hield going to LA, a year ago. So it wouldn't shock me if they reignite that.
And that would have changed everything. It's kind of funny to think that they're flipping Westbrook for him now, possibly. But the Utah one makes some sense, too. Like, Conley's a shooter. Bogdanovich is a guy they've looked at.
They got too.
Jordan Clarkson used to play for the Lakers. There's a lot of guys on the Jazz that could help the Lakers. And I think the Jazz is a fire sale there at this point. Is there anyone on that team that would interest the Celtics? I was looking at it. Rudy Gay, maybe.
Maybe.
I like Jared Vanderbilt. So there's a couple guys there that could make sense for the Celtics too. Are Danny and Brad getting on the phone, you think? Like, is that a dynamic that where they got a relationship?
I don't know. If I'm Brad, I'm thinking, do I really want to send a first round pick? Because that's always going to be it, right? Give me a first rounder. Like, no, I don't want 2 late second. I don't want 2 2028, second rounders. I want the first round pick. So I think if you're willing to go that route for someone like some of the guys you mentioned, a Vanderbilt or maybe, but I don't know if Brad does that. I don't know.
So that's what's going on in Lakers land. It makes my head spin every day. I love talking with my Lakers fans about the disaster going on out there. I guess the only note I saw this week is people were kicking this around. It was a loose report. I think it got deleted that the NBA might be announcing expansion this preseason. When Adam Silver got asked about it at the finals, he said there's no plans for expansion right now. But the rumor has been for a minute that Seattle and Vegas are going to get NBA teams sometime in the near future here. And that, of course, leads to an expansion draft. I think you got to protect 8 players, which shouldn't be too hard on the Celtics when the time comes. And who knows who's going to be on the Celtics at that point. It'll be like 2024, 25-ish probably if this happens. But expansion could be coming. Our Danger Cart, who tweets about the Celtics and used to write for Celtics Hub, I believe, put together like this little tool to do an expansion draft if the guys who are likely going to be protected by teams who are unavailable right now, who would become available. And it'd be those big contracts, right? The teams don't really want. So Seattle and Vegas would be picking up like John Walls of the world, or John Wall is on a smaller deal now, so he's not a great example, but maybe like Russ or Gordon Hayward or Porzingis. Those would be the kind of guys who would probably be available in expansion draft, along with some young guys, along with all those Jazz names that we mentioned. So you wouldn't be a great team starting off right away if you're Seattle or Vegas, but Seattle was a great team for a long time. I think people miss that franchise. And, we've done the Vegas thing, Josue, and that is the great city to go to and visit and watch basketball. The Summer League there's been a huge success. So I'm really excited about these teams coming into the fold. The other factor is I think the 3 teams that would probably come east would be New Orleans, Minnesota, or Memphis. And those are all, 3 really good teams with great futures who could potentially be joining the East sometime over the next couple of years here. So there's a lot of different factors here that make this super interesting.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I feel like the NBA has been flirting with this idea one way or another the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't know, man. Whether smoke this fire. I mean, I don't know if this year if it would happen this year, but
no, it'd probably be a couple of years from now.
Sometime in the near future for sure. Yeah.
This person likes Vancouver, another city in Canada.
Well, if they make that announcement though, that'll be something. They did it this year.
Apparently, those preseason games are in Vegas, and again, I don't know if this report was 100% true, but apparently the Lakers are playing a game in Seattle and another team's playing a game in Vegas or something like that. So it makes sense if they're doing something like that to have those announcements in those spots. A couple of teams are playing off-site preseason games this season, and the Celtics are actually among them, going to Montreal for that second Raptors game. So that's something to look forward to next month. I believe the Raptors are playing a game in some other Canadian city as well. I forget what.
That matchup against the Hornets is not in Charlotte either. It's in Greensboro, I think.
Greensboro. So there's a couple of sites off-site. I know Tatum would want a team in St. Louis, and then the Celtics would lose them. But that's probably not happening.
As soon as his contract is done, he would be.
That's what he says. He doesn't even hide it.
Yeah, he said that for the record. He was like, if they open up a team in St. Louis, that's the only thing that would make me think, all right, I got it.
Was it Winnipeg? I think Winnipeg's that other city the Raptors are playing in. Yeah, so I'm thrilled. I think expansion would be fun. I think the don't protect conversation's always interesting. But again, you get to protect 8 players. What would that be now for the Celtics? Like Tatum, Brown, Rob, Smart, Brogdon, White, Horford. You pretty much cover all your rotation guys right through pretty quickly. There might be like one tough decision every team faces. The Celtics don't really have that big contract that they're trying to unload to right now, fortunately, with Kemba gone. That's the other interesting thing to start this camp. Kemba still hasn't been released by Detroit. So we'll see where
Yeah,
he
what do you
ends
think
up.
that is, man?
I
It's
was
hard.
reading.
It's hard to do a buyout, or at least you're not going to want to do a buyout if you don't have a team lined up. I think
That's what
that's
it
what
is, right?
yeah.
So it stinks. We might not see Kemba this year, or again, who knows? After he was starring with the Celtics just a couple years ago, it was that All-Star game, right, where he played 40 minutes, is where it all went
Yeah.
downhill. Man, so Kemba still a member of the Pistons. Maybe they'll just keep him. Why not? Have him in the room. Have him as a leader, or whatever. Why not? It's a young team.
Yeah.
Jaden Ivey
Yeah, that
could
could
use that
happen.
mentorship. But that's what's going on. 1 week from tomorrow, we will be at Media Day. Celtics coming together for all their interviews, photos, all the rest there that they do every
Yes,
season to
sir.
start training camp. And then I believe they'll be doing training camp right in Boston this season. No trip or anything like that. So that's what's coming up. I'm sure we'll be going almost daily starting next week here on the Garden Report. Some people coming in and out, guests, Josue, John, Jimmy, Sherrod, all back in the fold. Vacation's
Definitely.
over. Celtics season is here. Of course, Patriots season is as well, John, tonight on the Patriots postgame show. So go check that out. Go check out Celtics
Hey,
All
Bobby, I didn't
Access.
get my Grant thing on, man. My take.
You teased it and you didn't even let it out.
I know.
Go
I was gonna
ahead.
wait for you to finish, but then I'm like, shit. I think we're running out of time here. No, I was gonna say real quick. I want to say you mentioned this after Game 6, or maybe at some point one of those first Garden reports that we did right when the NBA Finals wrapped up. But you were like, look, right now this is a good spot for Grant, a huge spot for Grant, because obviously the contract situation that we talked about, but also he's essentially lined up to be the replacement for Al in a couple of years, right? That role, whether that's being a starter or whether that's being that flexible guy that can give you that 3-point touch, also be a little bit of a playmaker for you and do other things. Can he be that guy? Can he prove himself? So I think this year could be sort of that bridge year where we see he can take on more responsibility, because the Celtics are already talking about resting Al in the second nights of back-to-backs, and they're going to sort of reel him back when you think about all the minutes that he stacked up during the postseason, which is obviously a good thing because you want him to be as refreshed as possible going into the next postseason. So this is a big spot for Grant, and obviously he's gonna have to really prove his worth here, as you mentioned, right after the NBA Finals, and now it feels like even more so when you look at the signing of Danilo Gallinari, and then he goes down now, and he's going to essentially miss the entire regular season.
I'll throw in there too. Al, we were looking at Al and saying, "Oh, all right, that's great. He's rejuvenated. He's gonna come off this $26 million deal, and maybe you get him back on a minimum, and all of a sudden the roster money-wise balances out a little bit." Listen, Al's made a lot of money in his career, but if he's still playing at an all-defensive level, he might say, "I'm not taking a minimum. I want 10 million, something like that." And maybe at that point you pay for it. But that's the other thing. If he keeps playing at a high level here, I don't know if he's taking a discount either next summer. You're gonna have to pay him if he's playing at a high level, even though he's made a ton of money throughout his career. You play at a high level to make more money. And
Right, and again, Grant's gonna have to prove himself. He's gonna have to prove that he can actually take his game to that level, because that's what's gonna take for him to secure a starting job, right? The Celtics are gonna give him the bag if he's not a starter, so he's gonna have to prove himself. He could be an everyday starter for Ime.
He's got to shoot 40% from three again. That was so key this year. When the Warriors switched on him, that really took him out of the game. So how does he counteract that? He used to post up really well in college.
Right.
So that's something you'd like to see him implement as well. That's what they wanted to do with Gallinari, Brad was saying during the summer. That's why I'm a little excited about Hauser. I want to see what he can do in that area too, because he's a big body. He can post and shoot over guys as well. Those guys just need opportunities. And again, there's a lot of guys with stuff to prove, as you said, Josue, this camp. Grant's got to come back in prime form. Al's looking awesome in those pictures, by the way, that they're posting of training camp. He looks like he's in elite shape coming in this camp.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that.
So he's going to be ready to roll more than anyone, I would imagine. And Tatum and Brown are back in the facility. It's go time here. So all our coverage daily of this team, and we are on the ground just as much as anybody else out there covering this game. Celtics All Access. Just go to youtube.com/Celtics All Access on CLNS. Subscribe there. We do news videos. We do impromptu Garden reports like tonight. It's all available over there. All our Celtics content. Of course, check out the Cedric Maxwell podcast with Josue and Cedric Maxwell.
Great plug, Bobby. Absolutely. We had a lot of fun in that last episode. I don't know if you guys seen it, but check it out. It just went live this morning. So yeah.
So new episode that's out. Schroeder Blakely contributor here on the Garden Report. It's got the A list, which has been rolling throughout the offseason with Gary Washburn now full time.
What up,
joining
G?
them? Quani Lunis, good friend. And he's got Full Court Press Bulletin. That's where you can get his NBA coverage. Of course, shout out to com.com/garden. Go check out that for 40% off a premium subscription. Athletic Greens, still giving you once a year supply of vitamin D, 5 free travel packs when you go to athleticgreens.com/garden, as well as the phenomenal t-shirt.
Yo, send those shirts.
We're waiting on them. All right, he is Josue Pavone. I'm Bobby Manning. Great to chat with you guys. Thanks for jumping in the room late night here after some football. And we'll be back sometime over the next week here, probably for Media Day next week. I'd imagine it's the next day we'll go live. So we'll see you then. Again, Josue Pavone, Bobby Manning. Good night, everyone.